Hi there. Welcome to episode 1 of our Paint with Me series. In our Paint with Me series, we will feature art tutorials, time lapses, and different projects for you to follow along with and learn more about art techniques. So let's get started. Here are the supplies that I will be using today. I'll be using Holbein's gouache set with 18 colors. Let me open it and show you guys. It's quite dynamic. It has some very good base colors along with some neutral colors. I'm also going to take out my metal painting palette. It's just a cheap one I got from a local store, and using some thicker drawing paper for this project. I'm going to squeeze some basic colors out now. Since we're doing some citruses, there's going to be lemons, grapefruits, and oranges. So I'm going to give myself a nice range of yellows and greens. I'm also squeezing out some warmer neutral colors as the base to make the drawing warmer and also use it as an outline color. Hopefully you guys are also painting along with me. So to start your painting, you can grab a reference picture and choose your base color to start outlining the basic shapes. So here I am taking the brown color and I'm going to draw some circular shapes as the base for my citruses. So you can see that it's not going to be perfect when you're starting out with the outline. You are just trying to draw the general proportions. Gouache is a very dynamic medium. It is opaque, which means it is the opposite of watercolor. It is not transparent. You cannot see through it. I mean, if you add a lot of water to it, then it could look similar to watercolor, but it is meant to be opaque, which means that you can actually cover up different layers. You can actually cover darker colors with a lighter color and it would still work. So it has a type of flexibility to it. It is also a little bit hard to control because if you don't mix your colors properly, the colors can blend together really easily and get a little bit messy. So you do have to be intentional with building up layers when you're working with gouache. So here I am finishing some of the basic outlines. You can see that in the beginning I made some mistakes and I put a little cross through it. That's just a little note to myself. And then I continue building up the basic outlines. I'm not going to draw it in detail because I'm going to be covering them with the base color soon. So as soon as you finish your outline, then you can fill in the background, work from the background, and generally it works best if you are using a medium that's great with layering to work from the background to the foreground. So I'm going to keep filling that up. And this is just the base. So my final background will not be this color. You do not need to be super detailed. Then I'm going to start blocking. So blocking in painting means that you take the general basic color of that object and then you fill in the shapes first. At this point, I'm not worried about any details. So I'm mixing the colors together. I'm creating a light lime. Because the gouache is opaque, you could see that in some areas it will actually cover the outline a little bit. But at this point, I'm not painting too thick. There's still a watery consistency, so you could still see my underpainting or the outlines. For each of my limes, there's also an outline on the rim. And so here I am mixing a darker green as the base color for the outline, for the skin of the lime. And the final color also will not be this dark green, but it is just a nice base to build depth. If you're painting multiple fruits, I would recommend that you paint one type first because the color's already mixed. And then here I am leaving the limes to dry and I'm moving on to the oranges. So I mixed a very medium orange. It's neutral. It's not too red toned. It's not too yellow toned. Just a nice base color. And that's going to be the foundation of all the oranges. If you do not mix enough, keep in mind that you will have to mix more of the same color and it might not be the same as your first time round. So it is actually good to mix a higher quantity. But with gouache, a little bit really goes a long way. So just be mindful of how much paint you are squeezing out of the tube. I'm adding the base color to the grapefruits and I love the colors of the grapefruits. I'm using a richer red tone for it and I'm covering up the big shape. Notice that I'm just trying to get a smooth layer. It's not super thick or anything. This is just the foundation to the painting. For the grapefruits, the outside is actually lighter than the inside. So I actually used a similar orange tone that I used for the oranges, and I added that into the grapefruit. It's actually quite fun starting the beginning of a painting. You don't need to worry too much about the details or precision. The fun part about gouache is just building up those layers and seeing how the colors work together. Then for the outlines of the oranges, it's actually lighter in color. It's almost a yellow tone. So I used a yellow orange for the base. And with that, I have the foundation of the fruits covered. And then you can start playing with color mixing. So here I start mixing lighter tones, and I'm actually going to layer the lighter values on top of the green layer. Because it is a lime, it will have yellow and green tones. And because there are oranges next to the limes, I want some of that orange tone to reflect in my limes. So I'm mixing different tones of color to give it depth. And when you guys are painting, it's very important to keep in mind to mix more colors. Don't just use one color or different tones of the same color for each object, because that will make it look a little bit more flat. We are trying to create the visual illusion of a 3D object along with a lot of depth in the colors. Now, after I lay down the lighter tones for the lime, I'm going to let it dry a little bit first. If I don't wait, it will start to bleed. It will start to get a little bit messy, and the colors will not look so clear. So instead, I moved on to the grapefruit. I am now mixing a lighter orange and lighter red, and I'm just mixing these colors together. And I'm starting with basic triangle shapes just so that it looks even inside the fruit. Doesn't need to be perfect, but I also want to make sure the proportions are somewhat realistic. As that dries, I'm also adding those little triangles into the orange. So after I lay the foundations of the shapes, now I'm going to start adding the textures. So you guys can see the pattern. I'm going from bigger brush strokes and general shapes now to the more refined areas of the painting. I'm adding little strokes, little dabs. We call it dabbing in painting when we add little strokes like this. Little dabs of texture to build that citrusy surface. So I'm trying to paint the fibers. When I'm adding the fibers, I'm mixing different colors in there. And there really is no perfect or accurate true way to do this, right? It is just me trying to capture the essence of the fruit. And so I'm just using a bunch of little strokes of different colors, some yellows, some greens. Sometimes when I'm painting, I could be a little bit impatient and I could just layer it on even though it's not dry yet, which may or may not work. So here, sometimes the colors blended a little bit together, a little bit too much. So I will have to touch up later. To increase the 3D feeling of this painting, to make it more realistic, I'm adding some highlights now. I'm adding some highlights. My highlights are not pure white. I mixed the white with different colors like yellow and blue, different tones, tested out. And then I added that to the rim of the fruit. And suddenly you can see the difference between that fruit and the other fruits. After I do that, I liked the color that I mixed and I added a bit more of a blue tone, and I'm using that now to set my background. And this can help clarify the shape to clean up my background. I took a darker color and started adding some details to deepen each little triangular shape inside the lime. Of course, this is a sped up version of the video. In real life, when I was painting, it was definitely a lot slower. So as that lime dries, I'm going to show you how to paint the grapefruit. So if you're painting a grapefruit, it's interesting because it has a lot of vibrant red and orange hues. It's really fun to mix those colors. And I was playing around with thicker strokes for the grapefruit since it's larger, mixing the oranges and the reds. And I really enjoyed the colors of the grapefruit. After I add the thick strokes, I go in with highlights again. I mix white and some yellow tones, and I just added the highlights. I just went straight for it and also used those highlights for the rim. When I still had the darker red tone, I mixed it back into the little edges here to make it more refined, deepen the shape. And you can see now that the painting is coming to life. My grapefruit is starting to look less like an awkward wheel or pizza, and it's looking more like a grapefruit. So I was happy at this point in the painting. When you are painting and warming up and practicing, especially if you have a piece where there's multiple of similar objects, I feel for me, the more I painted, the more comfortable I felt. The more I practiced in the lime, the more confident I felt when I was working on the technique for the grapefruit. And I'm sure that as I went on with the oranges, I felt even more comfortable with how to paint it. So practice always helps. Then I mixed some yellow tones, and the lighting got slightly different because it was getting late into the evening. But I made sure to add a lot of yellows and oranges, and it's fun to see how my palette develops too. It went from really tidy to really messy, but that's part of the fun of painting, right? So I started mixing the colors and adding some darker tones, darker oranges, and some highlights. It is so fun when you are painting in layers to go back and forth. It's somewhat intuitive, also takes some craftsmanship, so that's something that I quite enjoy about painting. There are some parts that are very, very bright, and I wanted it to pop out, so I added extra yellow and mixed different types of yellows into the orange. So notice that I'm not counting the strokes, I'm just randomly dabbing. Then I wanted to deepen the background, so I wanted to test out this darker blue. I thought blue would be a lovely color to contrast with the orange tones in this painting, because blue is the opposite color of orange on the color wheel. It's a complementary color. And so that's really helpful when you're trying to come up with a color choice for backgrounds. I mixed the oranges into the blue, right? Complementary. And one really important thing to know in painting is that when you mix complementary colors together, they create a duller color. The shadows also matched the oranges and the citruses because there's orange tones in the fruits. So that helps to make it look more realistic. Colors can bounce off of each other. At this point, I was trying to brighten the rest of the background and see how it would look like. So I mixed the white and the blue, and it got a little bit gray here. It is up to you how you want to do your background. I wanted to try to go for a flat surface and just capture some shadows. Here's how the painting looked after I was done with the portion for the video. And I hope you guys enjoyed this paint with me tutorial. Let me know in the comments below if you want more of these videos. We will be trying to do a variety of styles with these tutorials, some more step-by-step and guided, some sort of more time-lapse. So yeah, we would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope that you can subscribe and follow our channel. We are Artisan Yuko. We love creating videos and resources for other people who love art. And we like to connect with other like-minded people like you.